The Brooklyn Nets open up their 2025-26 campaign with a blowout 136-117 road loss to the Charlotte Hornets. Four of Brooklyn's five rookies saw the floor, and in pretty expanded roles, we're going to break everything down right here on the Brooklyn Boys Show. How is everybody doing? Welcome into the show as we come to you guys live right here on this Thursday, late afternoon, early evening, October 23rd, 2025. Be sure to drop down below, smash that like button, hit subscribe. That is the free way to support us and what we are doing right here on the channel. Again, can't thank you enough for all your support as always right here on the program. And joining us here on this Thursday evening, first time guest here on the show. He's on the beat. You know him from the New York Daily News. You know him from his incredible work covering this Brooklyn Nets team. Now, year three, I believe it is, for CJ Holmes of the New York Daily News, who joins us here on the show. CJ, it is great to speak with you, my friend. How you doing?
Doing good, man. It's been a long time coming. Finally, I'm happy I can finally hop on with you.
Absolutely. No, super busy summer for you. And it was an interesting summer for the Brooklyn Nets, CJ. We were talking about this before the show. I feel like every move that this team makes, we try to find a direction that Sean Marks is centering this roster around. And then the counter move is completely contradicting that direction. So the Brooklyn Nets are certainly in an interesting position. And they opened the season with a 136-117 loss. And a lot of people are very, very low on this Brooklyn Nets team this year. 19 and a half wins is the over-under at FanDuel Sportsbook. I listened to you on the Locked On Nets podcast the other day, and you made a pretty bold take that you think this team has the potential to win in that 30 to 35 game range. So last night was certainly not promising for the fans who want wins, the fans who want to watch good basketball. And I'm one of those fans because for those who are the pro tankers, for those who want Jordy Fernandez and Sean Marks to deliberately tank, I always say, when has tanking resulted in a championship? When has tanking resulted in a dynasty being built? So I'm a fan who's always rooting for wins, CJ, but kind of just give me your initial thoughts on what you saw last night from this Brooklyn Nets team in a blowout road loss where they just looked lackadaisical on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, Connor. It's interesting because you know how preseason is around the NBA. Everyone's healthy, or at least for the most part. Everyone thinks they have a chance. Everyone thinks they had such a complete and constructive summer. There's hope, man. And
Yep.
despite what the win projections were about this team, despite what people might have been saying on the outside looking in, there was a little sense of hope for the Nets throughout training camp. And obviously it's just one of 82 that we saw last night, but for the summer they had, right, and then to come out and play like that, it's just very discouraging. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's discouraging for the fact that they entered the game mostly healthy. The only player that was missing was Haywood Highsmith and Danny Wolf. Danny Wolf got hurt in shoot around, I believe, sprained his ankle. But offensively, I guess they were okay, but defensively, it was just a mess. I mean, the Hornets went with a 10-man rotation last night. 9 of those 10 players scored in double figures. The Hornets shot 53.3% from the field, 47.2% from three-point range, 17 makes from behind the arc, 22 fast break points, Brooklyn's 3. It's just not what you want to see, man. Especially this is a defensive-minded Jordy Fernandez coach team. And for them to put that kind of effort, man, it was just super discouraging. And, this is obviously the NBA. It's night to night, never gets any easier. The Cavaliers are in town all night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, shoot, if things don't change around quickly, tomorrow night things can get pretty ugly, as they have in the past against that same Cavaliers team.
And CJ, I will be in the building for tomorrow night's game, making the trip from Long Island. So
looking forward to
I'm
meeting you in
not
person.
sorry.
So looking forward to meeting you in person.
Likewise, my friend. And look, I'm not expecting a win from Brooklyn. I'm going with my co-host Josh because he got tickets for his birthday, and it's the season opener for a new era, it feels like, with the Flatbush Five. So I'm looking forward for, to be in Barclays, to be in Brooklyn for the game. We saw that the new renovations were made. A terrace was added inside the arena. So looking forward to seeing the new adjustments that were made inside of Barclays. this offseason. But yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there. The defense, that's what annoyed me most, CJ. It's not like they were getting beaten down below. I mean, Ryan Kalkbrenner was certainly annihilating, the
Right.
big men down low in the post game. But you mentioned it, they shot over 40% from downtown. They were just hitting transition threes. They were so quick in transition, and Brooklyn just didn't even try to get back on defense. I'm going to focus on some of the veterans. Michael Porter Jr., not the start that you want for him in a Brooklyn Nets uniform. 2 of 7, I believe he was, from downtown. So
5
certainly
of 15 from the field.
yeah, 5 of 15 from the field, 25 minutes, 12 points, a minus 19 rating when he was on the floor. And I'll throw this in there. I know the final stat line for Terrence Mann ultimately looks appealing, but his first few minutes of the game, the whole first quarter, he just looked lost out there, stepping out of bounds right before a possession could even get started for Brooklyn. He just wasn't able to fit in. And my biggest takeaway, but while Ben Suraf, in my opinion, I thought had a solid NBA debut given the circumstances of him stepping into a starting role in his NBA debut, an unexpected start, and just his ability to space the floor. But besides Saraf, this Nets offense looked very, very stagnant yesterday. They weren't able to get anything going. The ball movement was lackadaisical, just like their defensive effort. I mean, both ends of the floor, CJ, there aren't many positive takeaways except for Day'Ron Sharp, who came off the bench and I thought delivered a very, very, very strong performance for this team. 14 minutes, 14 points. He also got in there rebounds. He had 4 rebounds. And the most promising part is he was an efficient shooter, 6 of 7 from inside the field, 1 of 2 from downtown. I think that's an area that not enough people are talking about, CJ. He continues to develop his shot making ability. He continues to improve his consistency from inside the field, from beyond the arc. I don't know about you, but I want to see Day'Ron Sharp in that starting lineup tomorrow against Cleveland. I think you bump MPJ up to the small forward role and you sit Terrence Mann down, because I want to see more of Day'Ron Sharp in a year where we're not talking about the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be interesting to see if Jordy wants to go big in that way. I've always been a supporter of Day'Ron Sharp. I've written multiple articles over my course of the time on this beat, kind of just saying like it seems to be the only net that night in and night out brings that consistent energy. The question with Sharp always been, can he develop his overall game? And as you noted, we're starting to see flashes of that. In the gym, throughout training camp, we don't get to see much out of Nets practice. We usually come in at the end, but there have been a couple of instances where we're watching these guys do outside shooting drills, and not only does Day'Ron Sharp's body look fantastic, his shot looks fantastic as well.
Yeah.
And in this modern age of the NBA, you want your bigs to be able to stretch the floor, and that's always been one of the biggest questions with Sharp. Is he ever going to become a player that's more than a one-dimensional kind of bang under the basket kind of guy? And we're starting to see that early this season. But Sharp's energy is usually unquestioned. It'd be nice if that could be contagious to the rest of his teammates every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Most definitely, well said there by you, certainly, CJ. Someone whose shot making ability was firing on all cylinders, especially from beyond the arc, was 8th overall pick Yegor Dioman. And if you watched him throughout the preseason, if you watched him last night, he is not someone that you would think shot the 3 ball at under 30% during his lone season at BYU last year. Certainly a promising showing from him. And it's interesting because when he got selected, I think a surprise selection for most people who cover the team, most fans of this team, we all viewed him as a playmaker who, maybe would get you 8 a night. I think that was the goal for him when he first got selected. Now you're seeing him loosen up from beyond the arc. You're seeing him take chances from beyond the 3-point line. I think, again, only 1 game into the NBA regular season, the preseason, the summer league in the books. But this pick by Sean Marks is shaping out to look really, really nice thus far if these early returns have anything to do with Yegor Dioman's future. Because, again, that was the biggest gripe for him, his shooting ability. And now his stroke has continued to improve. His efficiency has continued to improve. And he still has that playmaking prowess that I think we've been yet to see due to the plantar fasciitis tear. And hopefully that minutes restriction will come off of him soon.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. The other day at practice, I asked Igor, "Do you think that perhaps talent evaluators were too harsh on your overall body of work
Mhm.
in college? Or is it more of a testament to your hard work? I think the answer to that is maybe somewhere in the middle. But then
Yep.
again, if you look at his shooting stats at BYU, the numbers kind of tell a lot of the story, but they didn't tell the whole story. And we're starting to see that now. Um, the dude has been knocking him down from beyond the arc left and right. He looks comfortable. He's shooting step backs. He's stepping
Yeah.
into him. But, you know, when he made his preseason debut against the Toronto Raptors last week, one thing that stood out was his composure with the ball in his hands. And I think that was a little bit different against Charlotte last night. He was a little bit more sped up. He almost turned it over as soon as he got in the
Yeah.
game. A couple of possessions later, it's a clean strip. They're going the other way for a transition layup. So, you know, Igor continuing to add strength and continue to be composed under pressure is going to be something to watch as his development over these first handful of games. One thing I really want to see more of is, you know, if the Nets view him as a point guard, I do want to see him be able to get into the lane more and get more paint touches and create and hunt layups and easier shots, because I don't want to see him develop into a guy who is, comfortable and content settling for outside shots. With his frame, with his handle, I do believe his upside is more than just typically an outside shooter. The Nets didn't take him 8th overall simply to be an outside shooter. They want him to be a
Yeah.
playmaker, creator, and a lot of that comes from getting those paint touches and getting into the lane. So going forward, I'd love to see more of that from Yegor. But overall, for 2 times we've seen him in a Nets uniform, he's looking great. It is promising, and it'll be interesting to see how he can continue to take steps forward in his development.
CJ, I understand this player had 5 rebounds. I mean 5 assists, excuse me. I understand this player had 2 steals, but please explain to me why Tyrese Martin played 26 minutes last night. It's absolutely ridiculous, CJ. I didn't think he deserved to be on this roster over Kobe Buffkin, who they ultimately cut, and now we're seeing him playing over 25 minutes a night. I'm done with these minutes distributions by Jordi Fernandez.
Yeah, man. I gotta play devil's advocate on that one. You didn't really hear much chatter about the summer Kobe Buffkin had. Was I shocked to see him waived? Absolutely, especially when you talk about the confusion of the direction. This is a young Buffkin was a young guy,
Yeah.
former lottery pick, untapped potentials. And I thought that Brooklyn could be a kind of a nice landing ground for him to kind of see what he can be when given an opportunity. Obviously, he was waived. But I don't think that, I don't think that it should be viewed that Tyrese Martin was worse than him or something like that. All summer long, we
Mhm.
heard about Tyrese Martin's strong play practice, right? And, you know, maybe this is a hot take, but an argument can be made that he's, one of Brooklyn's more complete perimeter players. He's a lot more skilled offensively than he gets credit for, and his outside shot, and that thing is rolling. It's rolling. I mean, just think back to that 30-point game he had against Phoenix last year. I do think Tyrese Martin's a nice piece that this team can have for a rebuilding team, and I think there'll be stretches in the season where he's probably getting more minutes than people are comfortable for. Just because I think that Jordy has that much faith in him. So I am definitely a Tyrese Martin fan. I like his game. Obviously, there's things he needs to improve. I'd see him take some more steps on the defensive end, but offensively, there's a lot of untapped potential there, and I'd love to see him out on the floor in longer stretches to see what he can become.
Yeah, certainly it's an intriguing argument. I just think my whole take with Tyrese Martin and Kobe Buffkin is I think we know who Tyrese Martin is at this point in his career. He's 26 years old. He's not a 23, he's not a 24-year-old piece. And let's be real, he had a breakout game against Phoenix, like you mentioned last year, but kind of when he comes down to earth, what we saw last night, this is someone who, can maybe handle the ball for you, who could shoot somewhat consistently from 3, but I think he's a borderline NBA player at the end of the day. I just don't think he's shown enough from a consistent standpoint to be a lock on this roster. On the flip side, with Kobe Buffkin, I don't really think he got a fair toss in Atlanta. I don't think he really got a fair opportunity to establish himself as the top 20 draft pick that he was just a few years ago by the Hawks. And I wanted to roll the dice on that upside. I wanted to roll the dice on that potential rather than going back to the well with Tyrese Martin. Now, I want to touch on this when it comes to the Nets roster, CJ. I don't think enough people have addressed this. We're officially into the regular season, and the Nets still have one two-way contract open. Tyson Etienne, EJ Liddell occupy two of the Nets' three two-way contracts. The other one still remains vacant. Have you heard anything as who's going to take that deal? Is Grant Nelson in play for that final two-way contract? We haven't heard any buzz about it all summer. We haven't heard any buzz about it throughout the preseason. Do you have anything there?
Yeah, I certainly have not heard anything yet, and I won't try to guess. It's funny, over the summer I kind of wrote a story on, here's some players the Nets could be targeting, two-way spots, and they go around, turn around, sign EJ Liddell, out of left field. So I'm not going to pretend like I know. I don't want to mislead your viewers or anything of that nature, but I do get the sense that the Nets aren't in any rush to fill that spot. I kind of think they want to see how the early games play out. Kind of see, what positions they're weaker in, and from that point, then you can kind of evaluate, which two-way guys are worth taking a gamble on.
Well said there. Now, when it comes to the injury report, CJ, rookie first-round picks, Drake Powell and Danny Wolf are both slated to miss tomorrow night's matchup against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Wolf, obviously, like you mentioned earlier in the show, injured his ankle in shoot-arounds before the Hornets game, so that's expected. Drake Powell, however, I think you could kind of tell that he was dealing with an injury there. Obviously, the knee injury that hindered him over the summer, and we didn't really see him, I don't think, get as many minutes as fans would have liked last night. What do you expect the Nets rotation to look like against Cleveland? How are they going to balance these young guys who are going to see more of Nolan Traore because we didn't see much of him in Charlotte? When is that minutes restriction going to come off Yegor Dioman? What's the outlook over these next few games for the Flatbush Five?
Yeah, the thing about Igor's minutes restriction is Jordy didn't flat out say Igor will be on a minutes restriction. And I mean, look, he played what? Sorry, I'm trying to pull this. I played 22 minutes last night. I think that's about right. For a rookie coming in, right? I do think that guys like Powell and Traore got minutes last night as a result of the blowout. If the Nets are blown out again tomorrow night, I expect to see those two on the court. I'm sorry. I expect to see at least Traore on the court with the other two injured. But I do think that the rotation will shape up a lot similarly than it did, a lot more similar than it did against Charlotte, with Seraph and Yegor being the top rookies to receive the bulk of those minutes.
And I think that's the problem overall, CJ, when it comes to drafting 5 rookies and 3 guards, because you can't have all 5 of these guys together on the floor, and especially in a year where, again, expectations are not sky high, and fans want to see these young guys play, and fans want to see these rookies on the court. So that was the first thing I mentioned overall when the Nets decided to use all 5 of the first-round picks. How are you going to give these guys the minutes that they need to develop? So then you turn your attention over to the Long Island Nets, where you can kind of see some of these guys blossom among the 5 this year. Who do you think is going to spend the most time out here on Long Island?
Among the 5, I would say Nolan Traore. Even last night, while he kind of had some moments, right? He just doesn't quite look the part of an NBA player as of quite yet. The shot's not there, the strength's not there, and obviously Yegor and Ben Seraph are kind of ahead of him in the pecking order. So I do think that Long Island would be a better early environment for Traore to get those game reps, and we'll kind of see where he's at at post All-Star break later in the year. But I do think among the 5, I can see Nolan spending the most time down on Long Island, with guys like Drake and Danny Wolf being, close seconds.
Yeah, Drake Powell's an interesting one, and he's the conclusion that I ultimately ended up drawing when it comes to who I think will spend the most time out here on Long Island, and that has nothing to do with his skill level or what he can to develop into as a Brooklyn Net. For full discretion, he was my favorite Nets draft selection. I just think the two-way versatility there, offensively, defensively, as a catch-and-shoot threat, his athleticism, I think, has the potential to last in the NBA for a long time, and maybe not be a number 1, number 2 option down the line on a very good team, but certainly a role player that helps raise the floor and the ceiling of everyone around him. But I came to that conclusion just because of the logjam really at his position, at that small forward, at that power forward position. You have Michael Porter Jr., Terrence Mann, the two starters at those positions. Zaire Williams, who didn't play very well at all last night there, but obviously the Nets brass still feels very confident in him. They extended him this offseason. Jalen Wilson's there, who the Nets clearly love. They're a fan of his leadership. He had a great game off the bench. So that's the thing that I've kind of come to. When Drake Powell's healthy, how is he able to fit in with this Brooklyn Nets squad and get the minutes that he needs, 15, 20 minutes a game to really blossom and reach his full potential as a player? Someone who struggled last night, CJ, who's still on the younger side of this team, Noah Clowney, and I heard it on the broadcast. They even kind of referred to him as a vet on this very, very young Brooklyn Nets squad because he is in year 3 now of his NBA career, but we really just didn't see him get into a rhythm last night. And I'm not going to overreact after game 1 because I think Noah Clowney is a player that kind of needs to adapt to his new teammates, and it gets a little bit for him to get going, as we've seen in prior years. So certainly not a promising start to the year. When do you think it gets to a point where fans might want to push that panic button on Noah Clowney?
Yeah, give it 20, 30 games. Like I said, it's only one game. Jordy said he's gonna have a deep rotation this season. No NBA team even figures out what their rotation is actually going to be until you're like 15, 20 games in. I mean, that's one that covered the Warriors. That's one thing Steve Kerr always stressed, is that we don't really know what our rotation is yet. We're kind of just this is a period of experimentation. Is it good to see Noah Clowney, his year 3 debut, going 1 for 6 from the field? No one really wants to see that. I thought Clowney would be a starter at power forward by this point in his career for this team, but give it some time. He put in the work this offseason. He changed his body, and that outside shot looked phenomenal during the preseason. So yesterday was kind of a tough game to kind of find your rhythm, especially with that pace and the fact that the Charlotte kind of came out and hit the Nets over the head from the opening tip. So be a little bit more patient with Noah Clowney. The talent's still there. The work ethic is there. I would not hit the panic button just yet. Let's give it a couple more games to kind of see how things play out for him.
CJ, I know you're not a Nets fan, but I need your advice for tomorrow's game. All right. So I have 2 Nets jerseys for this season.
Okay.
I have a Day'Ron Sharpe jersey. The next jersey kind of has some history to it. So Drake Powell, again, I told you, he's my favorite draft pick this year. And my birthday was a couple days before the official numbers came out. And my mom asked me, Connor, for your birthday, do you want any new net jersey for this season? So I said, Drake Powell. And obviously his jersey wasn't fully up and running yet on the Nets team store. They hadn't announced the numbers. So she said, all right, what number is he? And Terrence Mann hadn't been traded for yet. I kind of resorted to his college number. I said 14 is Drake Powell's number. That's the number. And then 2 days after I get the jersey, and of course you can't return it, he announces that his number is 4. So a 22 Day'Ron Sharpe jersey, Day'Ron Sharpe's actual number, 20. I messed that up there already. Or a number 14 Drake Powell jersey. Which should I roll with, CJ Holmes?
I say go with the Rook, man. This is the time where the Nets are trying to introduce these rookies, to their audience, and get these guys known and become household names. So why not support the rookie who's trying to make his mark?
Love it. CJ, thank you so much for the time, as always, right here on the Brooklyn Boys Show. You got any final thoughts you want to share, basketball related, non-basketball related, before we wrap things up?
I don't think Victor Wembanyama is a real person, and I'll leave it at that.
That's your biggest. I mean, he is, and the Nets are playing the Spurs on Sunday. So I mean, CJ, they let Ryan Kalkbrenner do that down low.
Dear God, that's all I got to say at this point. A lot can change. Who knows? Maybe they pull the upset against Cleveland tomorrow. But if you're having issues with Ryan Kalkbrenner, and that's no issue, and that's no knock on Ryan Kalkbrenner. I used to cover the Big East. I used to cover Villanova. I remember when Ryan was at Creighton. He always thought that he was an NBA player. Did I see him starting from day one? Absolutely not. But hey, but if you're gonna have issues with a rookie like Ryan, then pray for them boys. Pray for them boys against Spurs, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's CJ Holmes of the New York Daily News. I'm Connor Long, right here on the Brooklyn Boys Show, saying have a great rest of your evening, everyone. And as always, go Nets, baby. Peace out, folks.